So we're getting close to a point where a really well-made, strong contender for the top looter shooter, the First Descendant, is about to be released. With it brings a question I think is on the minds of a lot of players and fans of the looter shooter genre, and that is, will the First Descendant be dethroning Warframe and many others in the looter shooter genre and establish itself as the dominant looter shooter? Now, I know this subject is a bit touchy as Warframe has been around since 2013, that's a staggering 11 years. I was in my early 20s when this game came out and I was thinking, wow, what an amazing game that is completely free. And even to this day, I'm still playing it on and off around major updates. But now we have a new kid on the block, a looter shooter that is, in my opinion, is unlike any other. And one that is not only taken some of the better elements of Warframe, but also incorporated amazing things from the likes of Destiny 2 and The Division. We already have arguably one of the best parts of Warframe with the mod system, a mod system that not only has a full-fledged polarity-like system, the ability to alter how certain skills work, a full-fledged external component system, and even reactors for pretty deep customization. The game has a weapon system that is of Destiny 2, utilizing certain ammo types for certain enemies and use cases, and this is even before we even get our hands on the full release of the game. We have already some of the best parts of what make Warframe so great, the in-depth customization system that a lot of players enjoy. I am a channel that is built around making builds, and this is one of the major reasons I still play Warframe to this day. From a gameplay perspective, we got a pretty nice open world that, compared to previous betas, have been vastly improved on. Now we have a dungeon system that utilizes not only bringing a greater challenge with hard modes, but also have you be able to target farm certain resources. New outpost recon, Vulgus stations, encrypted vaults, void fragments and void reactors, and so much more. It's seemingly already capturing things a lot of players who love games like Destiny, Warframe, and Division all in one game. Again, before we even get to launch. And we haven't even talked about the amazing void intercept battles that really makes the First Descendant stand out. So with a new contender doing what I and a lot of players perceive better than its direct competition, it's pretty easy and safe to say that yes, the First Descendant will be the top dog, right? Well, not exactly. As I said at the start, games like Warframe, Destiny, and Division have been around for a very long time. I remember working back in Houston, Texas back in 2014, doing my very first awful security gig and talking to people working in the warehouse about how amazing Destiny is going to be. We were so stoked looking at the release trailer of the game that IGN put out and thinking, man, this game is going to be the only game I play for the next decade. And while it hasn't exactly aged the best and we're on the next installment of Destiny 2, it's those moments in that time investment that the First Descendant doesn't have on its side. I want to be clear here, I'm a massive fan of what Nexon is doing here with the First Descendant. They have been consistently taking feedback and improving the game, taking what players dislike and making it better or reworking it, and just straight up adding things that I feel will work in favor of making the game feel that much more amazing. But the biggest obstacle that the First Descendant is going to face is a deficit of content from all three of their direct competitors we mentioned a few times in this video, and most importantly, nostalgia. One of the biggest things that keeps getting me going back to Warframe is the simple fact that my friends from 2013, when the game first came out, are still my friends today, and between major updates, we go back and play. And I'm sure for a lot of you, you have friends and people you enjoy playing with that may be too busy with life to even consider essentially starting over in a brand new looter shooter. So the combination of having comparatively significantly less content and players having tons of time investment into those other games, it will be quite a barrier for the First Descendant to overcome. Now, it's not all bad, right? Because at the end of the day, we've all played the First Descendant, and it seems pretty clear to me that the game is definitely going to eventually become a real threat if Nexon continues to take feedback and work on the game. It's a fun, well-made game that once again takes a ton of inspiration from all the better parts of those successful titles we talked about many times in this video. And while there will always be the question of which game is better, there's one thing I think most gamers should keep in mind. When a new competitor enters into the space that seemingly is a very strong contender for attention of a lot of players, this drives other games to do better. I know a lot of players aren't very happy with Destiny 2 recently, but I'm sure Bungie, Digital Extreme, and Ubisoft are to some degree looking to find ways to keep players, or at the very least get players to return back to their game after the First Descendant hype dies down. Competition usually breeds excellence, so for us gamers this is a massive plus, as with a new competitor usually mean improvements in a game we already enjoy. And I can only speak for myself and my friend group, but we don't typically spend the entire year on one of these titles. For me, Warframe for example is a 2 to 4 month commitment depending on new frames or updates coming out, so that leaves anywhere between 8 and 10 months sense for other games to have major updates and keep things fresh, meaning for most gamers, the introduction of a new looter shooter means just more uptime on new content, and generally shouldn't be viewed as competitive but more as an additive benefit of diversity of available games for us as players. Anyway, to the question at hand, is the First Descendant better than, or will it take over the looter shooter throne from Warframe or many other games in the genre? Well, I think the answer, at least for the first few years, will be no. It's going to take time for people to drop their main game and commit time to a game that, comparatively, will have less content. That's not necessarily a flaw in the First Descendant because, again, it's not a reasonable expectation for a new looter shooter to be able to compete with games that have been doing it for a decade. But it is safe to say that the First Descendant has something special going, and if Nexon executes it right, maybe, just maybe, I'll be eating those words in a future video. But only time will tell. Either way, let me know down in the comments, what do you think? Will the First Descendant be your only game, or will you be playing all the others in the looter shooter genre throughout the year? I'm very clearly a massive fan of all the titles mentioned in this video, and I'd like to see what their player base is thinking about this subject. Also, down in the description, check out the Discord and all the other videos going over changes coming to the First Descendant. Again, it'll be down in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next video very soon.